Happy April Fools, everyone. Welcome to episode 360, recorded April the 1st, 2020. No, we're not playing it twice. April Fools.
The show's over. Bye, everybody.
See ya. Have a good week.
And we're done.
All right, so I'm hosting this week. I'm Tony Schaefer, and welcome to our delve into this week's journey of advanced technology, mobility, and sustainable energy. The first person I want to introduce is our maestro of music, Mr. Russell Frost.
And I used my phone so it was on repeat. Hey, thanks. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. All week long, just to give you an idea of how technologically advanced I am, all week so far, I've been playing with these. Okay?
Nice.
You can ask your parents what these are.
I don't know that. It's pure Ubu.
So I found out that they actually have some decent quality ones, like
Don't-
what the metal setting is for.
Don't make me come up there, okay?
Like as a child, I always wondered what that metal setting was for, and now I know.
So you can rock out, man.
Yeah,
thought it was that, but no.
Just a second, man.
So that's all I got. Music, yeah. Francis, welcome.
All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it way up north from the Kitchener-Waterloo region, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I've got no 8 tracks to show you today. None.
Oh, that's too bad. But you have wheels. Do you have any new hubcaps? Any new wheels?
No, just a collection of 8 currently.
All right.
Now, if you have Tesla hubcaps and you want to get rid of them, just let me know.
Send them to Mark.
Model S
Sit-
takes hubcaps now too.
I got room
Wheel
for at least
covers.
another 4 back there.
Yeah. So you can just drop them in a standard size envelope. That's Mark Coughlin, Kitchener-Waterloo region, Canada.
That's
I'm
all
sure
it takes. Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got the Model S, the Model Y, the Model 3. So many selections for wheel covers.
Yep. And the man with the Millennium Falcon down there, he is our social media main dude. He is Patrick Connor.
I just popped open a Prairie Bomb, an Imperial Stout aged on coffee beans.
Is that your second one, Patrick?
I wish.
Oh, okay.
And what's the verdict?
Oh, that
Is
is good.
it-
Yeah.
is it? All
Yeah,
right.
it's got some syrupy qualities and some coffee. Oh, it's good, yeah. So, buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride today, everybody. And welcome to the show.
All right. And our man in South Carolina with his Model X, he's Mr. Casey Green.
Moved to Virginia, but I've got some.
Oh, right. New to Virginia. I better change the script.
I've got some Thai tea, courtesy of my wife. She made it up fresh. And my video has finally made it into the editing deck from all the different recordings on the phone, on the camera, everything. Rave at Russell's house.
All
Yeah.
right.
There's
What are you doing?
some psychedelic stuff happening over there.
Nobody cares what I look like.
A Doctor Who episode has started in Russell's box.
Exterminate.
Certainly not least is our latest panelist joining the show, Georgia McKenzie. Hey, Georgia.
Hola. How's everybody doing tonight? I have nothing pithy to say. Let's just move on.
All right.
I respect that, actually.
All right. So one thing that I found is something that we had talked about many, many times in the past, and it finally puts the last nail in the coffin, the argument to all the haters who just love saying that electric vehicles are more environmentally damaging than internal combustion engine vehicles because of blah, 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 stupidity, blah, 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 ignorance.
Perfect summary. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That was my best ICER imitation. It works with anything. Climate denial.
Oh, yeah. Well, I
Pandemic
heard that
denial.
Hummers are better for the environment than Prius.
Right. No, of
Just,
course they
just to
are.
dust.
That was from the Heartland Institute. That was a well-researched study, obviously.
That was that was a well-funded study, mister. So you better take us.
Yes, a well-funded.
Well-funded.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, and I think similar
So-
reports are being put out.
Yeah. So this was a joint study from the University of Cambridge, Exeter, and Nijmegen. Okay, 3 universities. One of them was Cambridge, and the other is Exeter. A third one I can't pronounce. But anyway, what they found was, except for extreme areas in the world where coal makes up the majority of electricity, electric vehicles are cleaner than gasoline cars in 95% of the world. And then that's like I said, except for places where coal makes up the majority, such as Poland, is what they had said. And over the lifetime, the emissions for electric vehicles are 70% lower in countries that get most of their electricity from renewable energy, such as Sweden and France. And as we've said time and time again, even electric vehicles that are charged on fossil fuels will get cleaner when the grid gets cleaner as we introduce more hydro, more wind, more solar. So hopefully this is one last nail in the coffin, except as we all know, the people who should be reading this article are not reading this article. And the people who already know these things are the ones who are reading this article.
And even Poland. So if you've ever been there, they have horrible air quality, and especially we were driving down the freeway. I was like, wow, geez, the air quality here is horrible. And one of my friends from Poland said, yeah, well, you know how in the United States, as you guys sell cars, they all eventually end up in Mexico. Well, that's what happens in Europe. They all move east, and so the worst of the worst polluting vehicles are the ones that are in Poland. So if you compare that, if you just compare some sort of average to an electric car, it's going to be a little bit different. The nice thing about an EV, even if you are buying it in Poland today, is that as the grid gets greener, your car is going to get greener. And that is not true with a gas car. It's only going to get worse.
And you can put solar panels on your house today.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So there's really not much more to add here. Like I said, it's stuff. It's the exact reason we've done this show for 10 years. I mean, it's trying to push people in this direction. And yeah, I mean, for us, this is just a well, duh moment. But like I said, more people need to see this study. Right.
The Union of Concerned Scientists did this in 2012, and they updated it in 2015, and found the same thing. That and when they did their update, they found that it got even better because a lot of the U.S. grid cleaned up during that time. So it's only getting better over time. And one of the problems that they have is that when you ever see a study where they come to the opposite conclusion, they're usually saying, oh, well, okay, let's compare tailpipe emissions to all the upstream related things to an EV and all the energy source and the vehicle manufacturer. But then they're comparing everything on the whole life cycle of an EV to the tailpipe of the gas car. And if you're going to look upstream and do a life cycle analysis, you have to do the cradle to grave on both sides.
Right.
And EVs win, 95% of the time, 95% of the planet.
Yeah, I just watched one
the
where
only way
they...
fossil fuels are cleaner is if you cheat.
Right?
Yes.
That's the TLDR of that whole thing.
Yeah,
You could
Dieselgate.
Yeah.
Just watched one where they compared electric to fuel cell, and they said, all right, well, these both, let's say the electric is the same place for whether it's gas reformed or electrolysis. All right, so let's say they came from the same place, and then he came to the conclusion, all right, well, since they got their electricity from the same place, then the EV is greener, obviously, by like double. He's like, all right, but let's not throw this thing away. Then he flipped it to compare it to the gas car. I was like, all right, well, there you go. It's marginally better than a gas car. At the tailpipe, it's 100%, but if you compare the upstream,
I think part of the problem is that for detractors, they like to set the standard so high that it's kind of ridiculous.
It's not worth switching,
Oh, it needs to be perfectly clean from every portion of the manufacturing and the fueling, well, the charging and everything else. And it's like, look, I don't know about you, but we have to move in incremental steps on this, because we're not going to have 100% pure and clean transportation. So I've always kind of disregarded all that. Like, no, it's dirtier because how you get electricity. Electricity is a dirty power source anyway. And it's like, yeah, and so is your mother. I mean,
The only
Right.
retort
Your
that
refrigerator,
Yes.
your lights. Yeah, if that matters to you, great. You should have solar for all of that stuff, including an electric vehicle.
Yeah. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's not worth switching from this.
Right,
Very
you're right.
dirty,
It's so many people, and with so many different things, it's so many people have to. They feel that it has to be everything or nothing. It's like, well, no, an electric vehicle. We could say, I'm just throwing out a number and say, well, this electric vehicle is 50% cleaner than an internal combustion engine. Well, but it's not 100% clean. Therefore, I'm going to stick with my gas guzzler. And you're like, that's
Leave it
stupid.
dry.
Right. That's one reason
Right.
I'm a big supporter of plug-in hybrids. There's a lot of people who are battery electric or nothing, and if it's not 100% battery electric, it's a piece of crap, and that's just not smart thinking. If the person's options for based on their needs, where they live, the infrastructure around them, is a plug-in hybrid or a gas car, a plug-in hybrid's great. And for their errands or whatever they're on, their commute, they're on full electric. And if they want to drive 100 miles more, then they're on gas. Great. So, don't let the good, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
Right, right. I've often, many times, I've given this scenario. I've told people, so what you're saying is, if I give you $75, you'll throw it in my face because it's not 100.
And that's what they're saying.
Yes.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's
Are
exactly
you
what
going to
they're
give me $75?
No.
Because I don't
heard
have
this- I heard this speaker, and she was on a group that climbed Mount Everest, and they got turned away at the top, and they weren't able to make it to the peak. And she said that she was telling the story, and someone said, "Oh, well, you didn't make it to the top, then you didn't climb Mount Everest." And she was like, "Oh, so you're the CEO of your company?" And he was like, "No, I just work there." "Oh, so you're not at the top, so you don't matter." And, yeah.
Touche. You're right. Right. Well, I know a group of people, not personally, but I certainly know some people who need to read this article, and I think Casey is going to tell us about them.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So we have a couple of American car manufacturers that are going into telling us a little bit about their production plans for the next couple of years. And all right, so since I called them American, it's definitely not Fiat. Between
That
Ford,
narrows the field.
yeah, it does.
Mhm.
So between Ford and GM combined, we're looking at a target production of 320,000 electric cars in the year 2026.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 years from now. Here we are in
Yeah.
2020, and
Mhm.
somebody that is a subject of a show we just finished. They did that last year easily, and then
Yeah, most people, if they don't know numbers, 320,000 sounds like a really big number. That's a really big number. But what is that compared to?
compared to what they do in just trucks every quarter,
Yeah,
those,
Right.
those are millions.
right, millions, right? So yeah, I mean, to say 320, and they'll be making about 5 million petrol-powered SUVs
Ratio
in
of
2026.
1. Yes, 93% of them will be gas.
I'm
Yeah,
really
that's
glad.
horrible.
I'm really glad that we did these two stories in the order we did them, because Patrick's argument about the perfect being the enemy of the good is exactly what's going on here. So if somebody's going to make 320,000 non-fossil fuel vehicles, it's a bad thing because it's not enough.
So
We,
it's great
we
that
all
they're
want them
doing
to make
this.
more.
Yes,
Yes.
we all want them to make
Right.
more. And if you are looking at your supply lines that far out and setting up your orders and getting your suppliers in ready for the batteries that you're going to need, and that's all that you're asking for, well, you'll that's all you're going to get.
Yeah, because the battery manufacturers, they move so much slower than the electronics and the steel and all the other crap that goes into a car. They can get turned on and off like that. Batteries don't work that way as far as their construction. No, once they're there, oh yeah, they're light switches on and off. But to get them in the car is an effort. And if you
And
don't
we've
have the
seen
capacity,
this with compliance cars. It means that their dealerships are not on board. It means that they don't have the big rollouts, the big ad campaigns. They're just doing enough to get by, and it's kind of sad.
yeah.
So
Especially when you see them lobbying every government in the world to have less stringent emission controls.
the headline to this is GM and Ford, quote, GM and Ford's EV production plans for the U.S. have leaked, and they are a joke.
Yeah, I tried not to editorialize it.
I'm just, that's the big type at the top of this
It is.
article.
Right.
Right.
And where's the article published?
Teslarati.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it
a
is.
Tesla fan site publishes news slamming GM and Ford for saying they're going to make 320,000 EVs when last year they didn't make 320,000.
Right.
The year before that they didn't make 320,000. Like
But they also
again,
didn't- they
like,
didn't just
when
make
s-
a big song and dance show about how they have this new battery architecture that's better than Tesla, but uses 2 times the battery capacity to go just as far.
If this was their 2022 plan, I would
Yeah,
understand.
absolutely.
They need to
Right,
ramp
right.
it up.
Yeah, but this is 2026.
I don't think when someone does something right, you smack them in the face. That's my only point here. Sorry.
But
I
Mary
agree with you.
Barra did say they would bring 1 million EVs to market by the middle of 2020s, and now they're saying
how are they gonna do that?
320,000 by 2026.
Yeah, if they're not even going to do it with Ford together, how are they going to do that?
Well, there has been some speculation that the numbers are wrong too. Like, we don't know what the numbers are. The numbers are leaked. Where did they get the numbers from? Was it
That's
a
true.
reliable source? Is there a problem with the numbers? Because what Mary Barra is saying at EV Day completely is different than this. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the numbers are accurate.
Maybe they came before she did her EV Day speech. But if they came after, then this is what most of the controversy is about.
Yeah, I don't want to smack anybody in the face, but I do want to encourage them to move in the right direction faster.
Yes.
During the last show, the Tesla Life, Patrick had we talked about this story a little bit as well, and he had a great point about that. Really, it will come to a point when batteries are cheap enough that everyone will switch over automatically.
Without asking
Yeah.
customers.
If you get to 2024 or 2023 and you've reached parity, then things will switch almost day and night immediately over to
Right.
EVs because it becomes just as profitable and easier to build once you've reached that point. So the thing we can take some solace in, even if this number is correct, is at least they have outlined a number of different types of vehicles that are going to be EVs that will work in other people's lives, that we can start to receive them, start to get them out to the public that actually wants them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point that we've talked about here before. What really matters for when you have something like this, there's going to be a niche of people who love it, but that's not going to become mainstream. When mainstream happens, when these are the more affordable cars, when they are the better deal, when when you go to the lot and you're like, okay, you can get this car, or you can get one that's $2,000 cheaper and it's electric and has more torque and it's faster and it's quieter and it's cheaper to fuel. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
Then it's going to explode in the mainstream.
When it's cheaper to buy, the customers will demand it. When it's cheaper to build, the manufacturers will force it. Like
Right,
if you
yeah,
can
that's the
close
more
3
profitable
foundries,
car.
yeah,
If there's more profit in it for the manufacturers, they'll be all over it.
yeah,
The hard part, though, is one of the things that makes it profitable is when you have high volume, and then, but if you're constraining your volume, then you can't get to the economies of scale. So it's a tricky one.
It is
That's
tricky.
the
And
catch-22.
I'm sorry, Georgia,
think-
please.
Oh no, I just think that's the catch-22 you're finding between Ford and GM. That's what we talked about, like getting these big monolithic old companies to ramp up and try something new. I think that's exactly what's happening here. I mean, to me, that number is pretty disappointing. I agree with you, Russell. You know that. because we talked about that whole philosophy on other things, that it's like it's progress.
Yeah.
But to me, if your plan was for millions and then you're coming back with 320,000 by 2026, that doesn't feel like millions. That feels like you kept a good portion of that million somewhere else. I mean, 500,000, 750,000, I think that's more of a goal. But I also see why, and that's the big if, because we don't know what the true numbers really are. Every time people have unsourced leaks, I always say, if you can't validate the source, then you really don't have anything but a speculation. If they're not willing to come out and put their name on it, it's just speculation. And maybe if you make enough stink that, okay, this is kind of a disappointing number and it really isn't the innovation Ford and GM should be showing, maybe somebody who says, well, we floated that number out to see what people felt, and you know what? We got our asses kicked. Let's see if we can bump that up. But I think that they can do better. I think that despite being dinosaurs, some of those dinosaurs managed to be pretty damned fast. So get with the program and put a little bit more out there. Show you really are investing in sustainable cars and trucks. You are really going to be aggressive and you're going to compete. And to me, that 320K number, if that's the right number, that's not the aggressive, competitive nature of the business. And I think that they can do better.
Yeah.
I like having someone else on the show to argue with Russell.
It's like you said though, they have a chicken and egg problem. Like they have to decide: are we going to keep doing what makes us money, or are we going to do this new thing? But the new upcoming ones like Rivian, Tesla, blah blah, they don't have a choice. Like they can't do this old thing. They are unable to. It's just not in the picture. And so the new thing is already just de facto what they do.
Let me toss some gasoline and some complicating factors into this discussion, if I may.
How about some
I'm
lithium?
trying to remove the gasoline.
All right.
So gas is 99 cents a gallon on
Yeah.
average in 20 states right now.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
California.
It's
Yeah.
gotta go up.
Yeah.
I knew of at least 2 states. I didn't know it had.
I think that was
expanded to 20,
maybe it
but
was
yeah.
8 states. I forget.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it was.
The price of gas has dropped like crazy in the last.
It's
few
dropped
weeks.
like crazy because both Russia and the Middle East are having a price war, and they're also trying to kill all of the other sources for oil, so that then they can jack the price up. As we've
Right.
seen.
And our fuel use has dropped at the same time.
Yeah, and a lot of people are working from home, so a lot of people aren't daily commuting. So you've got gas sitting in tanks just
They're
Just
just
sitting
Canada
there.
now. Canada
Like
said,
the-
all right, no tar sands this week.
I'm literally strapping a backpack to my back and walking to the grocery store 2 miles and walking back up. It's daily as a bit of exercise, or just
Mhm.
I'm not driving that much at all. So
Good respiratory health.
That's
Millions of people their cars are sitting in the driveway. So add to that what looks like it could be a severe recession or depression in the United States, possibly globally, that could seriously impact the economic health of all of these companies.
great. Absolutely.
For me, that just I strongly want to encourage these companies to do better, but I'm also not gonna kick them in the balls for doing something. Is it what I want? No, but after playing this game, being an activist for EVs and for more clean transportation, for more mass transit, for a long time, again, I take the victories where I can get them because they're hard fought and they're seldom.
Right, but as you
Sometimes
saw,
subtle
some of the compliance cars actually turned out to really be disasters and made it look like nobody wanted EVs, made it look like there was no support for EVs. So they have to do enough to get over that trench that they've fallen in multiple times.
Well, but let's pretend we're smarter than maybe we are. We all know that's bullshit. Okay? The car companies are like, well, nobody wants electric cars. No, nobody wants to make them because there's not enough profit in them to sell them, right?
Right. Yes.
At the prices that are selling today. I mean, if you go
Prices-
luxury, then you can do it. We've seen that.
Yeah, a $25,000 electric vehicle isn't super profitable right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
The Chevy Spark EV.
Yeah, that thing was a disaster.
Yeah.
Hey, I got one of those.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you,
that's
Mark.
right.
And
Thank
if
you.
you have it and you enjoy it, great. But that doesn't mean it was a good long-term project for the company.
Okay, the Fiat 500
Yep.
EV.
So
That one is.
disagree with that, Patrick. I so disagree with that because here's another car like the iMEV has been the whipping boy for electric cars forever. I love the iMEV. The iMEV was a rickety, weird little European style electric car that was a blast to drive, and it was dirt cheap, and everybody hated it
Not
because it
everybody.
See why we get along now, Russell, because rickety and weird.
Yeah.
The
idea-
dynamic duo of rickety and weird coming to you soon.
It was a
There's our show title.
who rickety and weird. I got to write that down.
Yeah,
Who here has driven an iMEV?
I have.
It was fun.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. You know, again, it's this sort of one-upsmanship. It's where we, as people who may or may not consider themselves to be activists, we get into sort of this pure ideology debate. Well, my ideology is more pure than yours, so I have to reject yours. And it's like,
Right. It's
you don't
circular
have
thing.
to.
Yeah. Right.
We can be fellow travelers on parallel paths. Even if you're behind me half a mile, at least you're still headed in that direction.
Yeah.
Right. And my point wasn't that those were horrible cars. I was saying that those programs were not something that those businesses could continue to do. They were doing them as a test, or they were doing them for some compliance or some carb credits. And it wasn't something that they... we argued about the Hummer last week on the show. And one reason I think that's a good idea is it has a high price point. It's going to bring in a market that they haven't had before, and it'll be a product that they can sell in at least the low volumes continuously that they sold the old Hummer in. And those are all good points that make it look like it's a program that they can continue to do over a long period of time, unlike some of the ones in the past where they know they were losing thousands on every car, and they were making it up with the carb credits that allowed them to sell trucks in that state.
I have to actually, I'm going to bring up like one point, like why I got fascinated by electric cars going way back, way back. There was this really great energy whenever I'd go to any of the electric car shows and expos and sustainability fairs. And they did do, much like Russell said, rickety and weird, like they did things that were inventive and interesting with electric cars. And I was really excited at the whole thought that we could have like, okay, how many people were really disappointed that a smart car looking like you're just going to pull it back and let it go fly for like, just to make it run, was not electric.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that shit. I'm like,
And the
cool.
gas mileage was not even great. It was pretty bad.
It was like
yeah.
30 or
That was-
something.
But
Yeah.
if you're like me and you pretty much have a 7 to 8 mile radius from your home that almost all of your life is in, smart car is perfect. And there was I forgot which one it was that kind of looked like the snub-nosed engine fighter, and they came out with that, and it was just weird and small. And I remember seeing one of the first models at a sustainability fair, and I was just thinking, yeah, I'd climb in that. And I'd probably paint it to look like the nose of a dinosaur. That's the kind of shit I would do.
Yeah.
And I think that once they get to the point of mass production and having to appeal to millions of customers, they kind of lose that interesting, quirky nature that enthusiasts bring. And I think that kind of could be that difference that we're seeing. Like, it's not so much the perfect, but there's that spark that really got you interested and got your brain going and made you feel really excited about being in the part of the electric car phenomenon versus, oh goody, it's a Toyota.
It's a Camry.
I
I saw a
like
smart
Toyotas.
ED the other day with a crank wind-up key.
I wanted a smart car to put a wind-up key right at the back.
Yeah.
Just to make it look like-
That's funny.
So
yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it over to Georgia. Not talking about quirky little cars here, but with the situation that we have globally, she's going to talk about an impact to one of our favorite modes of transportation.
Yay.
Yay. Yay that we're talking about it. Boo that we actually have to say, hey, municipalities, what the hell? Ridership is down. Usage of public transportation is down. And it's not just because 90% of the world seems to be under a shelter in place order. What the situation is that a lot of the people that have to do the work, they're not getting sanitized. They're not getting the equipment they need. They don't have the gloves. They don't have the masks. And then ridership is down because they're scared. And who can blame them? Now, dealing with the situation right now, we know what we need to do. We know that cleaners have to be brought in. They have to make sure that trains and buses are sanitized regularly, far more often than they usually are. And the people driving the buses should be given PPE, proper protective equipment. And it should not have to be in the news that, hey, we don't have any, we don't get any. We have to get out here and risk our lives for 30, 40K to drive a much more reduced ridership no matter what, because we're essential. My concern is that going forward, this is a weak spot for sustainable transport, especially in municipalities. How do we fix this? And I don't see anybody asking those questions to say, how do we create a safe environment for transit workers, particular drivers who have to deal with the public? And how do we reassure the public that this isn't a one-time thing? We're not going to fail to take sanitization and their health seriously as transit riders. And I will say that San Francisco has completely shut down the Muni train, which if you are from San Francisco or you're from the Bay Area, you know that that's traveling throughout a large portion of the San Francisco peninsula itself. So BART's still running, but it's just buses right now for Muni.
Wow.
I mean, before I got my shelter-in-place order, my employer was pushing me to go to an appointment that would have made it so I would have had to ride the metro. And this stuff was like just starting to hit our area at the time. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And thankfully, management came in at the last second and said, oh, you don't have to go. You can go after we lift the order. And I was like, oh, okay, good. But you bring up a point. What about the person who's driving this thing? What about everybody else who doesn't, the people have to clean it, the people have to service it. They are exposed to this. And
yeah,
right.
I just looked up Metra in the Chicagoland area is doing alternate schedules. And on some of the lines, they're running every other, so if it was every hour, it's now running every other hour. And, basically, and it makes sense on their behalf because they would rather not run empty trains or, have full trains. But, when you think of the full life cycle of mass transportation, not only is it the engineer, it's the conductors, it's the people walking around collecting the fares. Now, you have to look at the whole life cycle. And let's say that I get on the train and I have an $8 fare to go downtown and I give the conductor a $10 bill. Now, he's wearing gloves, great for him. So he takes my $10 bill and he gives me 2 singles or a $2 bill because I think $2 bills are cool. Now, here's what's interesting. He's wearing gloves. He's protected. He takes my $10 bill and uses it as change to someone who gives him a 20. Mm-hmm. So even though in a tuning, even though he's wearing gloves and he's protected, he's taken my possibly contaminated $10 bill and he's handed it to someone else. He just cross-contaminated.
Or loony.
Or
yeah. So a couple things. There's been this assumption that transportation in the future is going to be shared mobility. And we already have an example of shared mobility in public transportation. And now that this is happening, people are concerned about cross-contamination. today, right now, if they just made all public transportation free, so you didn't have to do those exchanges, and ran them as they were scheduled, even knowing ridership would be down, that would guarantee that you had room on there to spread out, instead of saying, oh, well, no, we'd have better utilization if we did every other hour. But then you don't want high utilization. You don't want
Right.
people packed in there.
Right.
Right.
And most of these public transportation companies get some government funding anyway, so it's not like they depend on their only source of income is not the fares that they get. And as Georgia mentioned, there are people right now who are essential. They're working in grocery stores, they're working in restaurants that are doing takeout and other things. They have to get there. They have to do their jobs, so you can't just shut down public transportation. So I think we should go the other way and run public transportation and make it free, at least during this crisis.
Yeah. I just spoke to a supermarket refrigeration repairman, and he's critical. He cannot take off. I mean, if the food stops, then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched a video of a guy in the New York subway. Before he jumped the turnstile, he squirted it down, cleaned it, and then he jumped the turnstile.
Oh, God.
Love that.
Oh my God.
Let's
You brought up New York City, and that made me remember things like if you take BART, you don't actually have to hand anybody any money. If you go to LA, you don't got to do that at all either. Get your card and you slide it on through. But that still leaves you with the issue of the fact that you're sitting in a car with multiple people. And then it depends on you and the people around you to pay attention to social distancing. And you know what people don't have? Common sense.
Yes.
Right.
So
understatement of the show.
Look at
I think
all
that's
of
the
the
decade.
look at all the Uber drivers and passengers who've contracted this stuff.
Have there been a lot?
There were no loonies involved. There's
My
no cash.
tune's better than yours.
There were
so-
some loons.
So, like you've got this shared vehicle, and do you know the sanitation of it? I mean, the stuff lives on surfaces for at least a little while, even porous surfaces. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we always say with the autonomous car, do I want the car that's been driving, especially Russell, do you want the car that's been driving around by itself with who knows who doing what in the backseat, and then you get in it, and
Right.
and now
Talk about living in a petri dish. Like
Now, yeah.
you don't know what it is.
And I will say that Georgia was talking about in on some mass transit you don't have to hand anybody anything. I've been toying with going with the Metrophone app for a while. This might be the tipping point. And I generally don't like putting my credit card to things, especially attached to a phone. And I'm just not that person. I'm not the person that jumps into something like that willy-nilly. But now that we have something that is so contagious and can be just passed around, yeah, this might be, and maybe our new norm in the United States is going to be more like other countries where the phone is used as a wallet and a form of payment, so that you don't have to worry about handling other people's stuff.
and your phone
Right,
doesn't
our light rail
touch the
system
other
here-
stuff. It gets near. It gets near, and then there's no contact. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Right. That's exactly, yeah. Our light rail system here, they have these hop passes. You just hold your phone near it, and if you have Google Pay or Apple Pay, it just works.
Well,
Yeah,
or
God,
if you have a
blah,
mute
blah,
pass,
Portrait is utopia, blah, blah, blah.
You've been here,
Oh,
and you
I
admitted it on the
know.
show.
the same thing applies in San Francisco. Yeah, if you have if you buy a Muni pass, you show the pass, you get on the bus. There's
Yeah.
no touching, there's no contact thing. But that's the downside to mass transit is you're with other humans, good and bad, right? If they're infectious, you're infectious too. Yay!
Yeah.
What are we looking
That's-
at? What are we looking at? Pods?
Yeah,
Well,
wear
the
gloves.
hate
problem is
that.
the Uber. We're talking about bicycles and walking everywhere, like the Giver.
Yeah.
Still haven't read that one.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I miss public transit in San Francisco. I mean, I rode Muni for years, on and off, and BART and all of that, and I miss that. I miss not having the albatross of my private vehicle around my neck all the time. And if I wanted to go somewhere, I rented a car. Now, does that work for everyone? No.
So
In every place? No.
We got to build cities that are built back around walking and bicycling. I mean, because we can't. In so many of the cities that we've constructed now, they're car dependent. Like some of the real estate apps I've been looking at, there's a walk score, and like almost everything you look at is a 0 or 5.
Yeah, this might change urban design, city planning, suburb planning significantly. This is interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I discussed this with a city planner, nearly 8 years ago, where I said that the transportation costs for food is going to mean that they're going to have to start reserving land for agricultural purposes to make sure that they have a sustainable local version of a farm that's civically run so that it can get to us, and as fuel becomes more and more expensive. And I think we're looking at the exact same situation where it comes to infectious disease and public transportation. I'm spoiled by Manhattan and New York City. I love New York City public transit, but we need to do something so we can use these sustainable methods. And I guess that's where I'll leave it.
So you brought up the point about the farms. Like here in America, we homestead. You live on the farm, you work on the farm, you go to town sometimes. And what I'm understanding in Europe is it's the exact opposite. The farm is a business. You go from the downtown, where you live, to the farm, which is in walking distance most of the time, bicycle at least. And you go back home. You don't live on the farm. That's weird. That's not a weird thing, but living on the farm is weird over there. Yeah.
Well, I want to kick it over to Mark, because we were talking about mass transportation and and pollution levels. So Mark is going to very politely, as a polite Canadian, up north, point out some of the things that we're doing here in the United States to kick ourselves in the crotch.
Yeah, the EPA, which of course now stands for the Environmental Pollution Association, is jamming through some rollbacks that basically is going to allow polluters off the hook. What they're doing is they've rushed to pass, legislation yesterday to get it in under March 31st. And what this basically doing is taking away the EPA's need to double check on pollution levels for factories and emitters of pollution. The EPA has basically said we're not going to be checking on this during the current health scare because we're just we've got better things to do. And why you would make an announcement and let the polluters know that you're basically going to be asleep at the switch, I don't know. But they certainly made it loud and clear that, you know what, we're not going to be watching it anymore. So, if you want to go beyond that, feel free, because you're not going to get caught. I just think it's horrible. Why on earth would the Environmental Protection Agency say, well, it's open season for polluters now? It's completely the wrong message. I don't know how somebody in that organization could keep their job. Like why would you work for a group that is basically saying, now go ahead and pollute, it's okay because we've got another crisis to deal with, and when other people are looking the other way, it's all fine to let that coal plant run wide open and spread all that pollution into the air because we're not going to check it or confirm that you were supposed to keep to certain levels.
Because Mark, this is an opportunity to destroy
business opportunity
everything we hate, and that's the point of why Trump won, and why anybody with half a lick of common sense said giving this person power means that everything that we have done over the past 20 to 50 years is at risk, and I'm going to stop now because otherwise I'll go nuts.
The fox is in charge of the hen house. And
absolutely.
They're using
disaster capitalism. That's all I'm going to speak.
Never let a good crisis go to waste to get what you want, and that's exactly what they're doing, and it's pathetic.
And let's not forget that Scott Pruitt was Scott Pruitt the guy. He was the first EPA person that Trump appointed, and he sued the EPA like 5 times.
Right.
And
That's how
Trump
he
said,
got the
you're the perfect person to dismantle the EPA. And I mean, literally, you can look at this department by department, and the current administration has done everything they can to put people in the leadership positions of those departments to fully dismantle them and to fully weaken them, and basically just take off any guards and protections. And I think of 1984 by George Orwell, and especially with Mark's comment about the EPA. I mean, the Ministry of Truth spread lies. The Ministry of Peace funded the war. The Ministry of what was it? The Ministry of
Love is war.
Of love. Yeah, love was war. And now we have the EPA, which went from protection to polluting. I mean, this is truly 1984 level shit here.
But what's the best thing for you while you're trapped at home with a respiratory disease on the spread, but clean air and dirty water?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot.
And
And
then,
I hope that people will come out in droves to get rid of this administration, because it's all about getting worse. There's nothing in their whole bag of tricks that is going to help anybody that wants to have clean water and fresh air. It's horrible. It's absolutely deplorable that this is going on, and to have an agency that's tasked with protecting you is now polluting you. It's boggling. That's mind-boggling.
Like, pardon my rant, but literally, I don't need to be fucking excited about voting for anybody. I am fucking thrilled to the point that if I died, I will get the fuck out of my grave to crawl out of it and vote against these motherfuckers right here, because I cannot stand them. And I just want to do many, many things that if I had the superpowers, you wouldn't be able to look at.
Yeah.
So get the fuck over being excited about somebody to vote for. Get fucking excited to get rid of these sons of bitches.
That don't care
Yeah.
about your family, that don't care about your
Right.
children, that don't care about you, that
They care
aren't
about their own family.
Yeah.
that-
They don't care about
That-
the
They
future.
feel that they'll be able to pay for whatever it is that they need fixed because they'll have the
Right.
money.
Perrier.
Oh, air.
Deep breath.
Yeah. And well, speaking of not caring about you or your family or anyone, I mean, not only has the EPA announced that they're not going to chase polluters, just standard industrial polluters, but on Tuesday, April the 30th, President Trump fully rolled back Obama's emissions standard. And not only did he roll it back, but I think he even took a couple more swipes at it. So if you need a reminder, it was through 2026, I believe, and I must have closed that tab. I believe it was
I think
43
ICE
and a
can
half
actually-
miles per gallon.
Oh. Yeah, I think ICE can actually arrest you and deport you if you don't pollute enough.
Right.
I'm screwed.
So, and they will be checking, and
Yeah.
they will be
We're
deporting
number
you.
one in disease.
Your
We're
carbon
one of all
footprint
the
is
bad
small.
Yeah. So it was I can't believe I closed that tab. So I believe it was going to be something like 43 and a half miles per gallon by 2025 or 26. And they said, yeah, okay, not only are we not going to meet that, but 40 miles per gallon, and even that is not going to be enforced. Of course,
Why have a rule if it's not even going to be enforced?
well,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And
And
that
the,
wasn't-
the
that
double
wasn't-
speak that they had there was ridiculous. It was like, well, we're going to delay this because pushing the automakers to meet this would have caused a lot of problems for them, and that means that we would be worse off environmentally.
Right.
No,
But-
And-
double speed.
And it had something to do with we want the American people. So this was one of the arguments that was made, that lowering the price of the car to reduce the cost of owning a vehicle while saving lives, believe it or not, will get more Americans into newer, cleaner, safer cars. But of course, people have already done the numbers, and what they found was that this thing will actually cost more than $300 billion over the next decade for all consumers combined. It'll put more pollutants into the air at ground level. So it will, everything they just said is gaslighting and stupidity and revision. Is not factually based, but they just keep saying it over and over, waiting for people to say, okay, it must be true.
I've heard it enough times, it must be true. But the standard that they're trying to meet isn't the standard that you see on the window sticker. That's the fucking test before they adjust it. Right? Well, at least it was the last time it came up. It was the actual non-adjusted test. So we're talking the car's on the dynamometer, and it has to get 50 miles to the gallon in a closed room with no wind, going at max speed of 55 miles an hour with no wind resistance.
Yeah, that's a pretty optimal case.
Yeah.
I want a car that can do at least that.
Right.
I mean, because I drive at 70 miles an hour in the wind up a hill.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah. So we can expect to see Ford and General Motors producing more SUVs and gas guzzlers because, hey, they don't have to worry about that anymore. And the average American will be able to buy those vehicles because they're still legally capable of producing them. And it'll never get better unless Georgia votes the motherfuckers out.
It's all on you, Georgia. We're all depending on you. You gotta cry.
Georgia's going to be knocking on people's doors, driving them to the poll.
Right.
I actually have volunteered.
Yeah, I would so do that. Yep. I would do that.
But make sure it's legal in your state. In some of the states, they've made it illegal to drive non-family.
Yes, they have, to the point where you can put together a bus. Technically, it means you could not even take public transportation to it.
Yeah, technically, the city bus is illegal to ride to the polls in some of the cities, the way they've structured this thing.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Because,
It's voter
suppression.
suppression.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds
That
like a
was
pretty
uplifting.
depressing stopping
that
point.
happy
Yeah.
Jesus.
So
I gotta kill
if you'll
myself
excuse
and I
me,
don't have
I'm
a
gonna
gun.
I know. I'm going to have to wait 7 days to shoot myself. Okay. Oh, boy.
No, wait till after the elections, Tony.
Okay. All right. That's true. Well, like Georgia, hey, I'm in Illinois, so I'm even when I'm dead, I can vote at least twice. So before we get to the shout outs, I want to remind everyone that if you want to read all the news that we're reading, make sure and check us out online. Make sure you check us out, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Leave us comments, notes, and or just like the page. I don't care. Also, if you do use Flipboard as a news aggregator, be sure to subscribe to the What Drives Us magazine. So I'm just going to run around the horn. Mark, you want to do any shout-outs? You have one last thing for tonight.
Yeah, just a shout out to the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association. Since with social distancing in play, we had to skip our last meeting, but we did put up our EV news on our new YouTube channel. So if you search WREVA, you can check out our EV news from March and take a look and a listen. If you like what you see, just give us a check mark, a thumbs up, as well as you should be giving us a thumbs up for this particular video as well.
Well, all right. Thanks, Mark. Patrick.
Hi, I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and we're on Facebook and Twitter. And one little great thing about Oregon is we have vote by mail for everybody. And so you don't have to go to a polling place to vote, and you can do drive-by drop-off of your ballot at the library or post office. And so I won't have to worry about getting it being in a public space to vote and pulling some lever that 1,000 other people have touched that day. And you should try to get vote by mail in your state, because then you don't have to worry about taking the bus someplace or whether that's voter suppression. And the people's voice actually gets to be heard, which is what democracy is all about. Cheers.
All right, I'm moving to Portland. I mean, that's all I have to say about that.
That's exactly what Patrick and most of Portland does not want.
I know.
That's right.
I know, that's exactly why I'm doing it.
Visit and then get the hell out.
Yes.
That's a billboard
Okay.
that says that, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah. Give us your money and get out. Yeah. Georgia, do you have one last rant for the night?
I probably do. I'm Georgia, and I'm with
Go.
Electric Light Water. Wait, I'm not. I'm Georgia, and I'm going to shout out ResistBot 50409, where you can contact your state reps, you can contact your federal reps, and you should probably be asking them, hey, let's get that national vote by mail done so we can have a safe election at the end of this year. Right? Yeah, we love that. Yay, us. So do that. That's ResistBot 50409. And I can be found at random places. You never gonna see me. I'm like the Scarlet Pimpernel. I just sort of pop up.
Something tells me that if we had vote by mail in Illinois, the address would be dumpster fire at P.O. Box 23. You're just going to empty it.
Hey, this is no longer a mob elections.
Hey, we already know how the votes are going to turn out. We just, we just collect them because we're required to. Yeah. All right. I'm depressing myself. Casey, one last thing. What's going on?
I'm Casey Green. You might know me from such films as.
Troy McClure. Yes, nice.
So I'm all about EV ownership, Tesla in particular. You can find me on my channel at youtube.com/Casey Green. That's KACEYGREEN. And as I've been promising for the last what feels like a month now, I actually moved the video from my camera to my editing deck and my phone and everywhere else to the editing deck. I will splice it up so that instead of being 52 minutes long like it is now, it will be digestible, and it'll cover the last 4 firmware updates I've received on my car because they came that quickly.
Oh, wow. All right. And last, of course, not least, my co-host, Mr. Russell Frost. Any shout-outs? All right.
No.
So, Marcel Marceau, the world's worst podcaster.
Which shout-outs would you like me to do, Tony?
Oh, I don't care.
The usual?
Yeah.
Shout out something.
Sure.
As always,
Yeah.
our thanks to Michael Mannering for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com, and please keep in mind that musicians like Michael, artists all over the place, aren't making a lot of money right now because they're stuck and there's no shows, there's no galleries. So support your local artists, support your local musicians, buy something. You can do that online. You can do that safely. In Michael's case, you can buy his music all over the place. So go buy a song. It's $1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or go to Patreon. There's lots of great artists out there, and if there's someone you enjoy on a regular basis, right now is going to be a really hard time for them. They can't go do gigs. There's even a site for small businesses called, I think it's called FundMe, which is different from GoFundMe. WeFund. And small businesses like your local restaurant or bar that are forced to be closed right now, you can go on there and give them a monthly amount, just like Patreon.
There you go. And if you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/whatdrivesashow. That's patreon.com/whatdrivesashow for as little as $1 a month. That's less than 25 cents per show. You can help keep us in hookers and blow. I mean,
Well, not always the blow.
wait, that knock at your door?
Right.
Yeah, there it is.
And I wanna. Patrick reminded me. One last thing. Speaking of supporting local, a lot of restaurants, of course, can't serve food, dine in, whatever. They're doing everything they can to do takeout and delivery. Buy gift cards. Go to your local restaurant. Buy gift cards. load it up. You know you're going to go back eventually. Give them the money now, and then go back when all of this is over. So fund
Or
your
their website.
local businesses. Yeah.
Yep, I've been tipping very generously recently.
Yeah. We got to take care of each other. And with that, I want to thank Mark and Patrick and Georgia and Casey and, of course, Russell. And I want to remind you all to make sure and find us online and tune in next week to find out what drives us. See ya.
Thank you, Michael.
See you, everybody. Have a good week. Stay safe.
Don't touch anybody, just touch yourself.
Wash your damn hands.
April Fools.